answer any questions you guys may have about selling on the lake or listing on the lake, and maybe provide y'all with some information that you may find helpful. So anyway, I'm Teresa Smith.
And I'm Michelle Kaplan. I've been with Teresa for 9 years this August.
And I'm Mackenzie Scott, and I've been with Teresa probably, I think, 6 years this year. Yeah, time flies. So anyway,
We
we're
have a
having
lot of fun
fun.
together.
You're having fun.
So if anybody has any questions about anything that we're going to talk about, please just
Raise your hand.
Yep. We are going to pass some things around. We've got a couple of different, we've got what's called the change of ownership for, when people sell a lake home, the dock permit expires. Dock permits are not transferred. So, you have to apply for what's called a change of ownership. We're also passing around a, let's see here, a dock permit that has some special conditions on it, because you want to make sure if you're selling a lake property, you get a copy of the dock permit that has any special conditions in this area right here. You need to be aware of it. So anyway, this is the dock permit. This is a change of ownership. And these are some exhibits that go with the change of ownership. And this is about cutting down trees.
Yes, you have to get a permit to
Yeah.
cut down a tree on core property.
So you have one dock permit here that has no special conditions, and you have a dock permit that does have special conditions.
You'll see that on the.
Teresa,
the one
Post this on our Facebook page with the team meeting stuff.
Yeah.
Just know
Yes, Rob.
the stuff is not active.
So on that information, is that just for Lake Lanier, is that all core property in Georgia?
Pardon me?
That what you're sending around, is that just for Lake Lanier or is that for like
This
Lake
is
Otwell,
for
Georgia?
Lake Lanier.
Just Lake Lanier, okay.
Every lake has kind of different rules.
And we're out of the Mobile district, like Lake Hartwell is in the, I think, Savannah district. But all of our, but everything at Lake Lanier is out of Mobile. So anyway, Sean, go ahead.
Okay, we'll just go through this and raise your hand with any questions if you, something pops in your head like, oh, I don't understand that, or I need more information. Okay, the Corps of Engineers rule the lake and dock permits. It's important to follow the rules. Dock permits expire at closing. So if you get a dock permit, it may say good until 2027. You may think, well, my buyer's covered until 2027, but it dies at closing. So after closing, when they get their recorded deed, they get a welcome to the lake packet. You call, they'll send it to you via email, or you can go up and pick it up. And then you fill it out. There is a payment after. You send everything in, copy of your purchase and sale agreement, the contract,
Right,
and
your deed.
your deed. And there's also other things that you have to send into, you have to draw the dock. You have to, I think that's a couple of the things in there.
This is like a copy of the
Yeah.
hand drawn. They want you to hand draw.
Hand draw it,
the
what it
dock.
looks like.
Yeah, wow. I have
It's
to
not
take it back in
fancy.
time. They're still stuck in
It's
the.
not fancy.
Because
Once the new homeowner has received the recorded deed, they will need to apply for the change of ownership. Good for 5 years. However, when you ask to see a copy of the dock permit from your sellers or buyers, be sure to note that they're paid and in good standing. So you want it paid, you want to make sure it is covered within those 5 years, but you do have to change it over. The Corps will not issue a change of ownership until the current owner and previous owners have completed their process. Sometimes this process can take a year. The patience is the key, and just know the course goes by the changing of the deed regarding dock permits. So they are still pretty low on rangers.
They're really shorthanded right now, so. Actually, we've talked to some people that it's taken like almost up to 2 years.
Years to get it changed.
So if you want to request an upgrade to your dock, you cannot do that until it's signed off by court. And so let's just say that you're permitted for a smaller dock, and you want to go to the maximum size dock, which is a 32 by 32 with a 40-foot walkway. You can't even order that dock until you get your dock permit back that's already been signed by the court.
So just as she said, you can't modify a dock without approval from the Corps. Anything the Corps property must be approved first, including removal of a dead or dying tree, threatening your house or dock, mowing permit, mobility permit, maintaining your path to the dock, limbing, trimming, or cutting trees. That all has to be approved.
Question?
Yes, you said you can't modify the dock. What if the dock just needs some repair?
If it's the same size as what it's permitted for, then you can do whatever you want to. If you want to even order a new dock, if you have a current dock permit for that particular size, then you can get a new dock.
And a question that we get often asked is, can I add a party deck on top? And the answer is yes, as long as the footprint is the same. So you can't modify that footprint. You don't have to go through the course to get approval on a party deck.
Really?
You learned something.
I did. I knew I would. I knew I would.
Do the jet ski ports, do they need to be on the dock permit, or can a jet ski port be put on the side of the dock?
Every dock is allowed to have 2 jet ski ports.
Or-
Even if it's a 24 slip dock, there's only 2 jet ski ports allowed on that 24 slip dock.
It doesn't have to be on the drawing, it can be added because that is like the
Yes.
variance they give, okay.
Okay, so timber trespasses and the yellow signs. Has anyone seen the yellow sign of shame at a dock?
Yellow sign of shame. Or in their yard.
Or in their yard? That means they cut down trees that they were not supposed to. And Teresa knows more about this than I do regarding fines and whatnot, but the sign has to stay up 1 to 2 years, right?
Well, just until
For
the,
public shaming.
For public shaming.
Public shaming. And they put them like high up, so like you can't just like, I
And
mean,
it
you
has
could
to
probably get a
stay,
ladder.
even if you sell the house, it has to stay. If it was-
until the owner of the home makes restitution with the court. And the worst one that I had seen is that a lady got fined $100,000.
Wow.
Her husband decided to make a backyard on the core property, nice grassy backyard. And then they cut down, it's probably 90 trees.
Oh, my God.
All the way down to the lake. And so she was wanting to sell her house. So, but the Corps would never get back with her and tell her what she needed to do in order to get her house ready for sale. And so we hired a landscape architect and, the seller did, he did. To draw up a plan with the exact species of trees that she was supposed to have and the size of the trees. And so she had to plant 90 trees and they had to live for a year in order to get her timber trespass resolved. And you can't put irrigation on poor property. So I don't know how she did that, but I guess somebody had to go up there and water it on a constant basis. Wow.
So so if you see a yellow sign, that's what it is. They did something
Yellow
the
sign.
Court did not like.
It's right behind your house and it's down at the lake that other people that are voting by can also.
Okay,
And why they do that is because the value of their home goes up and they think that, you know, this is great, I can see the lake now, I've got a big old view, right? And, but, yeah, you've gotta be careful,
Protected.
because it's a little bit more than a slap on the back of the hand.
And you know that very well.
I'm very familiar with it.
okay, there are grandfathered provisions that are not available today, such as paved roads into the water, which we've seen. A boathouse dock, there's the enclosed, completely enclosed docks, or grass to the water mowing permit. Typically, the provision remains with the land when the property is sold. Any grandfathered provisions will be stated, has to be on the dock permit. So if somebody asks you, can I cut this? And you gotta look at the permit. Is there a grass to the water mowing permit? And I've been asked, okay, we've got the mowing permit. Do I have to mow? Even though it's not my land? Yes, you have to keep it up.
But we're talking about anything above the core line.
Yes. past
Below the
core
core
line.
line, you can't do anything.
No, we're talking past the core line.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was grandfathered in. So
Oh, if it's
prior
grandfathered.
to the new rules, there are some that is grandfathered in that you can keep mowing, but you have to keep it up. It has to say, it will say on the document.
It was called vegetation modification. So, and they will tell you.
It's gonna be called something.
They will tell you if you have a mowing permit, the vegetation modification, they'll tell you how big of a area, like 45 by 26 or something like that. And that's what you could buy.
Anybody else here know there's a mowing permit? Have you ever heard of that?
No.
No.
Okay, every property's core line is different. Land Glide is really good to use. It's an app called Land Glide. And it helps you get a general idea of the property lines, or for any property. You can always look for marked tree with 2 red lines, so it's 2 spray painted red lines. Or orange stake markers on the property heading towards the lake. That's kind of what you look for, and you can get a general idea of where the line is. With most lake properties being on septic is huge. It's important to know where it's located and inspected and pumped prior to closing. If it hasn't been done, I'd say 2 to 3 years, don't you think? At least inspected, but pumped.
They usually
5 to
say
7.
5.
5 to 7. Repairs or replacements to these systems can vary and be very hefty expenses to your clients. So any property that's on septic, not just a lake property, we've seen, there was one I had under contract, beautiful lake property. The septic was in the front and we took the lid off and it was full. It's completely full. And I had put in there, seller to have the septic checked, cleared, and everything working properly. So that was an $18,000 job the seller had to pay. All the lines had to be redone.
And about 95+% of lake properties are on septic.
And there's some good steps in FMLS that you could put a special step in there. Valuing lake property is usually difficult. There are many factors to take into consideration: the view, topography, depth of the water at the dock, location, how close you are to lake restaurants and marinas, proximity to the lake, shoreline. And you can always change the house. We always say that you can't change the land. The worst thing is to have the lake fluctuate and your dock sitting on dry land. So it's very important to measure the water, find out what it is that day. And there is an app for that. You can just look lake linear water levels and then really measure it when you're with your buyer there. So is it 3 foot? Is it 20 feet? That's important. It's very important. And is it in the back of a cove? Are you gonna get crammed in with 5 other docks, or is it wide open water? So that's important.
When you guys do that, do you just use a tape?
We have depth finders.
Oh,
They're about
The actual lake
$70 on
report.
Amazon.
But if you're doing depth finders, you have to have some delta of the lake, because the full pool is 1071.
Yes,
What happens if it's 1066 and you're using a depth finder?
then you can go, then you either add or subtract as needed.
just gotta add it.
That
Alright,
day, the
just
day,
curious
you can
to
look it up every day that it changes, and you can look it up online, like linear water level for the day.
Yeah.
And then add or subtract the feet from that and say, okay, it's 5 feet below full pool. Okay, you've got
Okay.
5 feet now, so in general, it's 10 feet on average.
And you can go back and look at that lake linear water levels, just like Google that. It
History.
goes through the history, so you can kind of see, and a lot of our clients also go back and look at Google Earth. So you can find when the lake was down it was down like 9 feet 2 winters
To see
ago.
what the dot looks like when it was down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really dig into that.
That's where, like, even on the images in the listing, you can go to the map view and go check and see when that Google view is. Because if it's, back, that Google view typically show you, depending on when Google was out there with their stuff, it'll usually show you back when it was low, like it's usually a long time ago, so.
Yeah.
It's very good.
It's very good information.
Very good information.
Okay, we thought of some scenarios that they not all have happened to us. But could be 1 or 2 might have happened. That's
about yours.
which one?
Which
Okay.
one's yours?
Oh, when you up the lot.
That's on here, yeah.
Oh, okay, I'll go to number 2 first. So I had not been with Teresa a long time, a year maybe? I don't even know. Could have been less than a year. So I had a lake lot under contract. It had a dock. It was a bad dock, but you have to have a dock with a lot, even if it's a placeholder, even if you can't walk on it. You can't just have a permit with no dock there. So there was no seller's disclosure because, well, there's no seller's disclosure, there's no house, right? So that's what I was thinking. There's no house. So we have it under contract. The day before closing, the day of closing, the agent calls me and says, so are you bringing a dock to your lot? And I said, what are you talking about? There is a dock there. He said, oh no, I've sold that. And I'm like, you what? He sold the dock with the lot. There was no seller's disclosure. There was nowhere that it stated the dock was saying it's personal property. Even though it's a crappy dock. He said, yeah, he's like, well, was it 2,000?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, I'll sell it to you. I'll leave it for two more $1,000.
So guess who bought the dog?
Yeah, we did.
How much you know?
Yeah, he could have said 5,000. And guess what? I would.
That's,
I would have paid.
So
Learned.
I can learn.
as a segue, what's the current status? I mean, there's no more dock permits, right? So,
There is like 880 people on the list right now.
right,
And I have a client who put his name on the list in 2015 and he just got granted a dog permit.
wow.
In years.
Wow.
So they are issuing, they just have to go through all the people whose names they're requesting a dog are on the list to see if they can qualify.
I mean, in terms of like where it's located and that
If
kind of
there's
thing.
50 feet apart, you know, his land is
So they
here.
got criteria.
There is, all dogs have to be 50 feet apart.
Gotcha.
So if it's not. Code has to be a certain weight class and a certain depth. So they're running through all of the requests pretty quickly, because a lot of people don't qualify.
So you're saying that, I was under the impression that you say you qualified, you had to wait till someone's dock was dismissed, or they didn't pay it, or that's not true?
I think that because they don't really take the dock permits a lot, and the Corps will tell you, we are not in the business of taking people's dock permits. So there are some dock permits out there. I mean, there's 10,615 dock permits allowed on Lake Lanier. And I don't think that really even counts. The community docks is trading 2 for 1 as far as shore goes. But there are some out there that are getting issued now.
Wow.
Sure. The first one?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, another one. Okay, so let's say a buyer purchases a home with a 32 by 32, that's a double slip, dock. The buyer's agent was provided a current dock permit. After a property closes, a change of ownership must be requested, like we've talked about, and then a Corps ranger will visit the property, do their inspection. When the ranger visited the property, it was discovered that the size of the dock in place was not permitted. So that 32 by 32 is not permitted. The new owner then had to reduce the size of that dock to be compliant with the permitted size. So it stinks when they go to close on their home thinking that they're like getting this beautiful double slip and then they have to sell that and put a single slip. So that
That was a
has
true story.
It was a true
happened.
story.
It wasn't us, but
Wasn't.
They did not pull the dock permit ahead of time and read it.
they
Okay.
did. They had it.
Oh.
They had
She
a
didn't
copy of
measure.
the dock permit.
They didn't measure the dock.
And sometimes it can be ever so slightly, and even down
Wow.
to like your walkway, your gangway thing. Like that happened at one of our listings.
It's on here, yeah.
It
It's
was,
under contract.
it was like 4 feet too long, just the walkway. So we got all these quotes and stuff to have it shortened by 4 feet. There's ways you can kind of manipulate it too by hinging it off and then and maybe sometimes hinging it back on. I don't know.
Right.
But
Who would never do that? Yeah.
no one would ever do that. And so our sellers, they just came up and gave them like 500 to $1,000. Just you take care of it. This is the way we bought it. But the next buyer's agent came down there with a little measuring tape and measured, and that's how we found out.
Wow.
So measure that as well. That was like a oopsies on
It was.
me and
It
us.
was. So this, it really did happen to me, long time ago. Is I had written an offer, we were closing on the property and, they had checked dock on the seller's property disclosure, but when we closed on the property, or right before we were going to close, they had switched out the dock. From a really, really nice dock to just a an icky dock.
Rouge.
So now we use verbiage that says the dock that is in place the day of showing, or the offer was written, remains with the property. So,
Would that not be considered some of the verbiage where the property has to be in the same condition as the date of purchase? Or is that because it's personal property?
well, I mean, if they check dock, on.
We left you a dock.
Right,
Well, but there's a clause in our contract that says it has to be in the same condition as the date it was purchased.
but the dock's personal property.
That's why I was asking. So,
Yeah.
so because it's personal property, they can do whatever. Switch it out.
Yeah, like refrigerators, you
Yeah,
might have this fancy
right.
stainless steel, beautiful, and then you close and it's this little white one in there. Well, we left you a refrigerator.
And dock boxes are personal property and so are boat lifts. The seller does not have to leave those. They can sell those. And there's no place on the disclosure for people to actually put that on there unless it's under, those boxes at the bottom on the page, check
Especially right.
everything. So you need to ask for those dock boxes and the boat lifts or.
Yeah, because your buyer might think, oh, great, there's a lift there too. Well, it's nowhere
They
in,
assume.
nowhere in there. Assume it's personal. Those are about 10 grand. They could sell that.
Have you ever had buyers want to have one of the rangers come out and do an inspection of the core land and the dock prior to closing?
They won't do that.
They won't do that on Lanier? Okay.
They won't do that at all. It's because the seller has to request. Seller is the dock permit holder.
But if the seller requests it,
If the seller requests it, getting somebody out there right now, that's very few and far between because they are so short-handed. Like, we don't even, in the area where I live, we don't even have a ranger and haven't even had one for 6 months. They will, you can go into their office, they're open on Wednesdays and Fridays from 8 until 4. And you can go and sit down and talk with the ranger at the desk, at the shoreline management desk. And they'll give you information, but they won't let you know at that point that if they could upgrade the dock to a larger size. But let's see what else.
I think we should cover it on that.
We did. Oh, yeah, we talked about the yellow sign.
What are some misconceptions, like the grandfather in, or there's no more dock slips, or permits, that sort of thing? Like, what are some things, anything in here that y'all have heard, you're like, oh, that's just what people talk about, but it's not real?
A lot of misconceptions that I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, is that you can clear anything under 2 inches, like underbrush, and that's not true. I mean, you can do it. The Corps does aerial pictures every 5 years. And the way that people have gotten caught like this, I remember we have a ranger that we're friends with. He told me that he had gone to this guy's house and the guy had been living there for 20 years. So that's 4 different renewals on the dock permit, right? And so he knocked at the door and just said, hey, you've been cutting, limbing and trimming. And the guy said, no, I haven't. I wouldn't ever do that. I know it's not allowed. And so the ranger showed him the aerial views during the time that he had owned the property. And it was just blatant that he obviously had been. So, whoopsie.
He got a sign of shame.
What happened?
Teresa, what about, I have a neighbor, he blows his leaves, all of them. It's just crazy that he
Into the
does.
lake?
No,
Oh.
and then he grinds them all up and puts them back down. Would they
His
get
leaves?
after him?
No, I don't think that would be,
Natural.
yeah,
As long as he's putting it back down.
well, not leaves. It's more like just cutting and limbing trees and
Okay,
underbrush
so
and
they're
things
not-
like that.
But I've also heard you can't pick up like dead, sticks and trees that have fallen and that kind of stuff, because they want that to be part of the natural environment.
They
Is that,
do want that, but everybody does it.
oh, okay,
I mean, it's already laying there and it's just.
it's
Yeah,
firewood.
but you're not supposed to.
Like they say, if a tree falls over your path, what they want you to do is literally just slice off the middle.
6 feet,
Yeah.
like slice out.
So you
6
can get
feet.
to your dock and then scatter it naturally amongst core property.
So the tree goes here, we put this much.
Does that mean people are just rolling into the lake probably?
Oh, that's a funny story.
We have a funny story.
Is this the boat sinking story?
Yes.
Yeah, that's funny.
That house that they just showed the video of,
Beautiful house.
that cove tends to gather
Twigs.
like twigs and
Big
logs
logs
and things
and
like that, so
Trash.
it was gonna be like $1,500 for a dock, a marine company to come out there and clean it up. We thought, well, we'll just try to save the sellers some money.
We'll do it ourselves.
They do it themselves.
Anyway, so we had a little fella over there and so, yeah. And we had bought some big black trash bags and all of that, so he'd gotten like 20 massive contractors' bags of trash out of that cove, right? And so we went over there on my boat and we were starting to load up all the trash bags on the boat and everything, and there were some logs that were like this big around and tree limbs and things like that, and so we took off. We were coming out of the cove, not realizing that all the weight was on the front of the boat. So the boat started sinking.
Scary.
It was really scary.
The little guy couldn't swim.
I was like,
That was like, he was just first off, let's get my phone back out. Am I gonna lose any?
My phone last.
Yeah, just sitting on the front of the boat with it going down and like, you know how to swim, how do you translate?
it was his first time on a boat,
The
the little fella.
Yeah, it was his first experience and we sunk
It's the
him.
first time you've been on a boat ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what we did was we moved all, we had tarps down and everything, so it wasn't like, making it horribly dirty. But anyway, so we moved everything to the back and then we called Gary with Junk Express.
He saved the day.
So we got to the boat, take everything off of the boat. So,
Yeah, that's scary.
we won't do that again.
So I got a
That was
question.
like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was recent. So for an agent that's coming in today and they're like, they from here, born here, raised here, want to live on the lake, want to sell on the lake, what do they need to know on day one not to do?
Well, I would say what you should do is any property that's on the market or comes on the market, you should go and preview it and walk to the dock, measure the water. I used to use a piece of fishing line with like I think it was like a big bolt
A
on the
weight
end.
or a
Yeah, a
weight.
weight on the end, but now you can get, how much are those depth finders that we have?
70.
They're 70.
They look like a flashlight. And all you do is you go down, you just stick the very end of what would be the light for the flashlight in the water and you bring it back up and it shows you the depth. So familiarize yourself. I spent a year going around and learning all of the streets on the lake and would hold open houses at vacant properties and you just have to know your stuff, basically. Previewing is key. You'll learn so much just on your own, just going out and taking a look at lake properties.
One of the funniest things she said to me when I first started with her, I was like, I had shown a bunch of properties. I'm like, there were so many spider webs. I swear, those big spiders, like they were hitting me in the face all the way down. She's like, Michelle, pick up a stick. Oh, that's brilliant. And so you will see me with a stick waving, going down to the dock when it's spider season, because you will get hit in the face.
Yeah, they will be all over you.
And then do the
Oh,
spider
my
dance.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
The spider
A
dance.
lot of spider webs.
Woodland has the spider dance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, like, I would say, I am somebody who is from Alpharetta, born and raised, and was lucky and blessed to have a family lake house in Dawsonville. So I'm very familiar. I learned how to ski, everything on this lake, wonderful family memories there. But in addition to just like previewing and driving around, I've done a fair share of driving around at the beginning of just different locations and streets and stuff. But get familiar, go to the lake restaurants. You can go by car. You don't have to have a boat. Go to the lake restaurants, get some content, that type of thing. It's a perfect opportunity for social, as well as like attend farmers markets, just all the cities touching the lake. That's kind of just how you get familiar with just the life lifestyle, I
And
would
it's
say.
fun too.
Lifestyle portion
Yeah,
of the
that's
lake.
Maybe build relationships with people that are all around the lake.
Yes.
Just
It is
take
fun.
the twisted oar, talk to the person next to you, they probably have a vote.
Yeah, have them take you on the boat, I mean.
Or they might be there
I don't
visiting
know.
and wanting to buy a house on the lake, and maybe you just might be the person they talk to.
Exactly.
You just never know.
You make a lot of great connections. The lake community is really friendly
Mm-hmm.
and fun. I mean, they're just so nice.
Mhm.
Everyone's there. It's just a fun lifestyle to sell. So get
They're on
familiar with.
lake time.
They're
Yeah.
like,
It's mellow.
It's mellow.
yeah.
Yeah, one of the things is, where the dock line or where, where the core line is, I think is a huge question. I know if I'm looking at lake property, where is that, in the back there? Because I know if it is closer to the water, you can do so much more with that backyard without having to get a permit.
Ours goes like that.
Uh-huh, exactly. Well, that's the thing. It's like, why is this one over here more expensive than this one?
Well, yeah.
Your
Right at the-
core line is like right at the back of the house versus all the way down to the water. There's value in that,
It doesn't seem like there's any rhyme or reason about when the Corps took over the lake years and years and years ago, how they do.
Like they close their eyes.
It doesn't run any particular latitude, does it, or longitude? It's just all over.
In that app that we use, that we talked about, Land Glide, there's a feature on there where you can put like my location right now and you can kind of like walk the property and it kind of follows.
It
you.
follows you around,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Landline is super accurate too.
Yeah, I think you
I
can
use
get one
it
for
all the
free,
time.
like when you download it, you can use it one time for free before you have to
Before
start
you do
using
something
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
like a free.
I think it's $100 a year.
It's not expensive,
$10 a month.
Onyx, anybody that's a hunter that has Onyx,
yes.
Onyx is another one I use. I like that one a lot.
pretty much the same thing.
It's a hunting app, but I have found in some of I'm looking at acreage from one of my clients, and it really is amazing how up to date
How
it
it
is.
follows you wherever you go.
Uh-huh,
When we
it is
start to go to
really
the
so,
next
yeah.
property line, then.
Yeah, it was really cool, yeah. As far as like, so I know I've had some where they've had like a golf cart path to the lake or something like that, and on the dock permit, there was, like a medical release or something like that. Is that still something we see? Is it only grandfathered in? Can you ask for one now going forward? How does that work?
Typically, if somebody has a permission to do that, it's just for that particular seller.
Right.
And it states on the dock permit that once that seller moves, there will no longer be a golf cart permit, let's just use that term. So the terminology, like if somebody has, hip, knee, back, any sort of medical necessity, your doctor has to write a note and it has to say the words medical necessity on it. And you just show it to your ranger or go down to the Corps. You're closing on a property. I mean, everybody takes their golf cart to the lake, right? You do. But legally, it needs to be on your dock permit. Plus, also, even if you do qualify for it, if the grade is, I can't remember, I think it's like 11% or 14%. If your grade is kind of steep, they won't grant you even if you have a medical necessity due to just the steepness of them.
Now that gives value to a property.
Oh, it's huge value,
You
yeah.
just have
Having a flat.
100 steps straight down, no way to put a golf cart path. You know, you're gonna have to be, how I try to sell it is, okay, our money is to be picked up, you go to the public dock, right down the street.
Public boat ramp.
And public
Yeah.
boat ramp,
Mhm.
and pick her up, come back, or you have a lot of coolers. Just go take your car over there, everyone else can just walk up and down. It's still, you can still use it, still do it.
Well, I mean, knowing your client, I had a disabled Army veteran that we were, trying to find him a property that he could either, one was already there, so he knew he could, apply for it when he did the change of ownership. And so, but we found him one that was a nice flat grade, and he was able to apply for it when he changed the ownership, so.
The Corps is really nice. They're really nice people down there. They're really helpful too. People think that they're just so mean and you don't want to, interact
Scared to
with the
ask
Corps.
them.
Exactly. But they're really nice.
Well, I think like your point of going and meeting with them, this particular client went and met with them. And it really kind of gave him a little more peace of mind. So if you have buyers that are looking to buy on the lake, have them go meet with them, like, they're nice, they're great, and it gave him peace of mind. That whole thinking it's a transfer of ownership versus change of ownership, that mindset is a little different. Kind of speak a little bit to that, because I mean, it is not transferring. Because I've heard a lot of people say, okay, it's 5-year dock permit and it's 3 years in, I've got 2 years left. That is not the case. So speak a little bit to that.
That's great. Well, I think that, people that come up from Atlanta and aren't really familiar with the lake, that they don't know that their buyers are gonna have to apply for a change of ownership. And so therefore, they don't, because they don't think that their dock is going to expire, their dock permit's gonna expire in the next couple of years. And so they don't ever apply for the change of ownership. And all of a sudden, they get a letter in the, from the court stating that their dock permit has expired, and so.
And
it's just-
in
That's why it's important
Gainesberry,
to work with the lake agent.
like for example, Gainesberry. So the dock permit changes with the deed only. So we just sold one, we just closed one that the current owners, we were representing the buyers, and the current owners hadn't completed their change of ownership process.
Because they'd only owned it, what, 2 years?
Yeah,
They
and
didn't do it right away, they didn't apply for their change of ownership.
No, they didn't, and they were still waiting on the inspection, this, that, and the other, and our clients are really nervous because the Corps will not issue they won't start their process even after they close, I mean,
They get their
until,
recorded deed.
until the previous people complete their process. So you just have to kind of give them peace of mind, because they were like, is our dock gonna go away? No, they're not gonna come and take your dock even after closing. We just kind of have to still be on them, the previous owners, to
Make sure
complete
they
that
finish
process
it.
and make sure they finish it, so then our clients can then begin, even though we're already closed.
But the old sellers had already paid. They were just waiting for a ranger to come out to
Mhm.
inspect, but because they're so shorthanded.
Took a long time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, we don't know, because we just closed, a month ago.
Yeah, we're probably still waiting, for that to
Should probably
happen.
check on
I think we need to. But it does help, like, your clients, if they have any questions, like, with the Corps, if you don't wanna be the middleman, get them in front of somebody at the Corps, or get them on the phone, have email conversations with them, and just give them proof. It really does help with peace of mind for buyers.
It does. We can tell them anything. We're representing a seller, and we can tell the buyers, whatever the case may be. Like Mackenzie just said, go down there Wednesday and Friday between 8 and 4 and just get it straight from the horse's mouth.
It can help expedite the process.
I went with buyers, I went with buyers to the core with them, I'll go with you, let's go. If you have any questions, that way you can get it straight from them.
Exactly.
Ownership similar during inheritance, would that be the same thing if it's?
Yes, and even if you put it into a trust, it's the same owners. And you put your property into a trust, you have to go through the change of ownership. Isn't that weird? It's just like the click of a button on the computer, just put it in the Rob Donahue trust as opposed to Rob Donahue.
So if it does expire, then what's the process for that? Like, are there, you apply for your renewal? So is there penalties if it expires or anything like that?
Not really, but the Corps is not really good about communicating at all, and so people have recently gotten letters, like for instance, you have a lake house at 123, Nacoochee Trail, but you live in Beaufort. So if they have you don't get mail at your lake house, you need to have your communication so that they can be sending you the renewal letter, before it expires. But there's a lot lost in translation about, just best to keep up with it. But no, they're not gonna take your dock permit because it expires.
I had that experience, it was expired, and they're good about, they'll just get you up to speed. That's when you suggest I go down there and talk to them, and got down there and talked to them, and they helped us out, so. They're pretty good, they're not gonna try to take it just because you expired.
Not at
Right.
all.
Yeah, all right, oh, go ahead, we'll round it up.
So more about the buyer side,
Do you think most of the buyers that are buying Lanier are the primary residents or the second homes or they rent like? I'm just curious.
We've had a lot of, people moving here, like from out of
Out of
state,
state,
like the
okay.
people that Mackenzie was just talking about, they're moving from Bend, Oregon. And, we have one under contract right now that the buyer's moving from Arizona.
We do have a lot of
people
out-of-state.
in Florida.
Full, those are all full-time.
Those are all full-time.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely noticed a spike after COVID. A lot of people were selling their in-town homes and moving to the lake full-time because the lake was open and everyone was still partying out there, going to the restaurants, all the things, so I would say a lot, I feel like there's been an influx of full-timers
Yeah.
after that, post-COVID.
One other thing, I know we're running a little bit late, short-term rentals, very profitable, right? Very profitable. You can't do them in Forsyth County. So that is, if you have somebody that's wanting to buy a lake home to short-term rent, Amy is a very good one up in Gainesville, because it's in Hall County. It would
Oh,
make a
yeah.
great short-term rental.
It would.
So,
Bring your buyers. It's got a great dock.
It
does. That's not expired.
It's not expired.
Yeah.
All right, so to round it up, so let's just go with the top 5 things I heard you guys talk about. One is, are dock permits transferable? Are they transferable?
No.
No, they are not transferable. Can you move a core line? No.
I wonder what the fine would be for that.
Can you replace the dock? I'm like, yeah, same with the same footprint.
Or when you go through that change of ownership process, at the bottom, there'll be like special requests or, things. At that time, up front, after you close, have your clients, if they do want to double slip, if they do want to try to upgrade, ask for it. You might not get it, never guarantee them that they're gonna get it. But that's a good time and the best time to ask for any requests that you might have if you want something bigger.
And then they will come out when they do the inspection, and the typical rule is there 50 feet between the docks on either side?
and if you want, if your dock is, let's say, 24 feet wide and you want it to be the maximum size 32 feet. If you had that additional 8 feet on it added to the width, would it still be 50 foot from
Still
that
50
dock
foot.
and 50 foot from the?
If so, there's a good chance you might get
Is
approved.
that during full pool, or because when it goes down,
They all
they
come
get,
together.
I mean, you can hop
Yeah.
from one to the next.
Yeah, you really can. 20,000.
Yeah, 2008 was, yeah, it was
It'd be
terrible.
cool,
Well,
it
it
could be
was
just
down
when they go out and
21.
measure, they take the pointer.
Oh, okay.
Craziness.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so number 4, what's the max size dock?
32 by 32.
Longest walkway?
40.
Good job. All right, any more questions? We'll wrap it up.
Go buy a mountain house if you get the lake.
All right,
And if you're
ladies.
gonna list one for the first time, co-list.
Yeah,
Because
they know all the things
Yeah.
and all the people that you need to know or have conversations with to know what not to do. and what-
Contractors, people
Yeah,
like
what
that.
you
need
need to do. Yeah, the
recommendations.
rules are definitely a little bit different. So anyway, I cannot thank you guys enough to bring your knowledge about all the things.